So our gentle class today, and this week our theme is on love, and in particular self-love. Right, so it's been Valentine's Day, today is Family Day, and these are days that can be wonderfully nourishing for us if we're around loved ones, and can be challenging for us if we're around loved ones, especially if we've been around them for, in lockdown for all this time. But if we don't have loved ones nearby, it can be doubly challenging. So focusing today on loving and holding ourselves with care. And the idea of self love is not about loving the good parts about ourselves only, the parts that are lovable, but about loving all of ourselves. So the shame, the guilt, the anger, the sadness, all of that stuff. If we can open our hearts to love all of it, we come into this place of, call it radical self love, because normally we just love the things that are lovable, right? But can we open our container and actually love ourselves unconditionally? So as we work today, we'll be opening the heart, opening the area around the chest, and bringing some attention to this idea of welcoming in whatever arises. So a lot of times we have stories in our minds about how we should be, right? And unconditional love doesn't want to hear those stories. Like, they're irrelevant. So coming back to a place where we have this quiet place, maybe inside somewhere, where we know that everything is okay, everything is acceptable. And if you can't get to that place today, compassion, right? Just holding yourself with as much compassion as possible. So we are going to start seated with a little bit of a body and breath awareness, and we'll go from there. So finding a comfortable seat, I'm going to bring my microphone so you can hear me. So you can be on a chair or on the floor, whatever is comfortable for you. So the last few weeks we've been focusing on using our bodies, our breath as a kind of anchor for mindfulness, a kind of way of bringing our mind into meditation while we're practicing. And so we're going to keep building on those skills. And today we're going to kind of watch our minds and see what sort of stories come up in our minds. We keep coming back to the breath, to the body, to the present moment. And as I've mentioned before, if the breath and the body don't feel like a comfortable anchor for your attention, right? If you get lost in there somewhere, you can always just look around the room and ground yourself in the here and now by looking or touching tangible objects. So if you like, you can close your eyes. If it's helpful, you can keep them open. Notice the body. So always when we're noticing the body, there may be areas that are uncomfortable or painful for you. And I invite you to notice those, but see if you cannot dwell there. So if you notice an area that feels tight or uncomfortable, just give it a moment. Yes, I see you, I feel you. And then see if you can find another part of your body that feels good, that feels easeful. And then continuing to notice whatever is available. And if you don't feel much in your body, notice that. You might notice the hands resting on your legs or your feet on the floor. Or you may not feel much at all. And then I invite you to tune into your breathing. So we looked at the inhale and that expansive quality, that quality that allows us to feel a little more expanded, a little more open in our bodies and minds. And the exhale, a kind of going inward, a sinking down, a letting go. We also looked at that gentle contraction that helps us to feel strong and grounded in the exhale. The inhale, that expansive quality. So if you can feel the inhale moving into the front, back, and sides of your body, and the exhale, the shoulders sink down, the belly draws in slightly, And there's this feeling of support perhaps through the core. We looked at that last week. So a few more breaths, really tuning into the inhale and the exhale, letting your mind come as fully into focus as you can. Then bringing your hands together at your heart. See if you can leave a little bit of space between your hands, like you're cupping something precious in between your two palms. And in that space, just feeling into what's present with your heart today. Valentine's, Family Day. So whether that's feelings of joy and happiness, whether that's feelings of disappointment or loneliness. Just tuning into what's present for you. And if it's really, really painful, you might not want to go there right now. You may just want to touch into some of the lighter feelings. But ultimately, noticing what's present for you with as much care, kindness, and compassion as you can. When we give witness to our feelings, they tend to dissipate a little bit more quickly than if we try to push them down. So whatever is present for you, giving it space. So we're going to lift the arms, reach straight up, and then reach out to the sides, creating a little bit more space. Imagine your heart expanding. I'd like the Grinch, the heart expands to include all of who we are. When we shut ourselves down, when we deny who we are, it takes a lot of energy. And that energy could be used for something so much more vital and important. So again, reaching up, breathing in, creating space. And this time, let's bring the hands behind the back. You can just hold them back there or maybe interlace your fingers if that's possible and comfortable for you. And then let the heart lift a little, let the shoulders relax as you gently draw them down and back, taking a few breaths here. And then releasing, bringing the hands forward. You can bring them to rest on your thighs or knees, and you can do this whether you're on the floor or on a chair. We're going to lift the heart again, breathing in. And then exhale, press into your thighs, round your back, let your head come down into that cat position. And then inhale, lifting. You can think about shoulders moving down and back, heart lifting. Exhale, feel the back space of your heart expanding. Let the head come down and open up that space between your shoulder blades. And then inhaling, chest expanding and opening. And you can continue this a few more times at your own pace. Great, and then eventually making your way back to a neutral spine. Let's bring the hands back together, but not leave space this time. So press the palms into each other. Let the elbows come apart. And let the heels of the hands move down until you feel engagement across your shoulders and chest and a little stretch in your wrists and forearms. You can keep the fingers touching right to the bases of the fingers and separate the heel of your hand a little bit so that you're giving your fingers a bit of a stretch if that feels comfortable for you. Right, and then you can interlace your fingers and do some circles or movements. It doesn't have to be circles, just any kind of movement here. If that feels uncomfortable, if you feel too restricted with your hands together, you can just do some circles with your hands apart. So whatever feels good for you. Just waking up the creaky parts that might not have been used too much so far today. Great, and then give them a little shake. Great, letting the hands come down to rest. Great, and then just a little bit of movement for the neck. So you can take your head to one side, gently sweep it across the front of your chest. Tune into what you feel in your body. Make sure you're always breathing. And stay aware and attentive to the stories that pop up in your mind. So try not to get too carried away by those stories when they pop up, or the to-do list, or whatever it is for you. Acknowledge and come back. You can come back to the heart, to that space that we've created. If you like, you can make some circles with your head now, being always cautious not to let your head fall back behind your shoulders. Circling one way and the other if you're circling. And any other movements for your neck. So if you know something feels good for your neck and helps to release it, you can do that movement. Just always being gentle with your neck. Right, so we're going to come down to the ground. So come right down onto your back. So take your time, especially if you're on a chair and you're making your way down to the ground. So when you get there, just take a moment with your knees bent, hands resting on your body somewhere. And we're going to tune into the breath. So there's a natural movement of the spine with the breath. It's very subtle, and often because of our posture and the way we're sitting, we actually inhibit this movement or block it altogether. So we're just going to tune into the breath as it is right here in this relaxed position. You might feel your body move a little bit under your hands. And then we're going to start to exaggerate the movement of the breath a little bit. And then we'll come back to really being with the breath as it is. So to exaggerate the movement of the breath, on the inhale, there is a slight arching of the back that naturally happens. You can bring the attention down into the belly and give a little bit of extra arch to the back if that feels good. And then as you exhale, press into the feet and bring the lower back down toward the ground. And that lengthening or flexing motion, natural movement of the exhale. So inhale, there's a natural gentle arch, and you're just increasing a little bit just to help your body feel this natural movement. Exhale, press into your feet. And if it feels like uncomfortable or doesn't work for you, just breathe normally and notice what's happening naturally. Otherwise, inhale, little arch. So the pelvis tilts. Right, the spine and the pelvis move together, the lower spine and the pelvis. And when the back arches, the pelvis tilts in one direction. When the back rounds, the pelvis tilts in the other direction. And so these two movements go together, and that's going to become a little more relevant later as well, or it could be relevant again later. Right, so now next time you come to that exhale position and there's just a very gentle kind of engagement in the core, then you'll inhale and relax. And you can let the arms come to your sides and just take a few normal breaths. And you might start to feel that much more subtle wave in your body. And as you inhale, just a very subtle movement into that extension. As you exhale, kind of dropping through the lower back. If you don't feel much, don't think you're doing it wrong. Right? It is very subtle. And we're used to kind of blocking movement and blocking breath a little bit unconsciously. So that movement may not actually even be happening in your body, unless you kind of bring your attention and do it consciously. So now with your arms to your sides, let's press into the feet until we feel that little bit of engagement lower back toward the ground, and then you're going to use your thighs, you're going to use your buttocks. Those muscles are going to gently engage to help to lift you up. And you're going to lift up slowly, so taking the hips off the ground and the lower back coming maybe onto the upper back, really honoring your neck. If you feel any tension in your neck, lower. And then when you come down just as slowly. When your spine comes to the ground, when your whole spine comes to the ground, so the sacrum and the hips come down too. Pause here, take a few breaths, and just notice the movement of your breath in your body. You can exaggerate it a little bit if you find that that's a nice little massage for your lower back. Some people really enjoy that movement. And for others, it's either not much going on or maybe even uncomfortable. And then again, when you feel ready with that slight engagement, so the lower back is toward the ground, but you're not clamping and pushing down, just finding that little tiny bit of length in the lower back. And then you can start to lift the hips, lift the lower back, lift the middle back, maybe coming up onto the upper back, but again, honoring your neck. So there really shouldn't be pressure on your neck. If there is, come down. When you come down again, take a few breaths. Great, and we'll do that one more time. So again, on an exhale, a little bit of engagement, pressing down, and then start to lift as you inhale, but take as many breaths as you need to lift. So you don't need to be inhaling this whole time that you're lifting. In fact, please don't. So take breaths as you're lifting. You can pause at the top, take breaths as you lower. So it's a really slow, mindful movement. Go in your bed. Go. Great, so then you can, when you come down this time, you can bring your knees in towards your chest. You can go side to side or make circles with your knees, whatever feels good to release after that. Focus on this lifting and engaging back the body. Are you going to bed? Are you going to bed? Good girl. Great, when you feel complete with that, you'll bring your feet to the floor. We're going to roll over onto one side and come upright. And we'll come right around onto all fours. So here, moving in that extension and flexion of the spine again. So extension is the back bend or arch or cow position, and flexion is the rounding or the cat position. Now here you can add child's pose if you like. So you'd inhale and arch if you're coordinating breath. That's always optional. Exhale, child's pose. So either moving freely with the breath as it is or coordinating, if you're coordinating, inhale into extension, exhale, flexion. Feel free to rest in child's pose or a variation of child's pose, whatever is comfortable for you for a moment. Come back to your breath. Again, whatever stories want to pop up in your mind, especially ones that tell you you're not good enough, they are not true. Let them go. Acknowledge them. Thank you for showing up. I don't need you. Make space. Make your container big enough to hold all of that. So you can hold it without dwelling on it. And I hope that difference makes sense. And let's come up to all fours. So from here, we're going to end up coming onto our bellies. So one thing that can be helpful if you feel that you need a little extra padding somewhere is to bring a blanket either under your belly. You know, if you have bigger breasts, it can be helpful so that you're not just being squashed there. If you happen to have a bigger belly, you can bring the blanket a little higher so that you've got some space for your belly to be. And you may be comfortable without anything. So I'm going to invite you to, if you want to take a moment to see what might feel comfortable for you. If you've got a blanket handy, or could even be a pillow, you can kind of play around with that. And if you know that you're comfortable without anything, then that's also fine. You can just, you don't need to use something. So if you're already on your belly and it took you a while to kind of get there and get settled, you can stay there, as we'll be doing this move again. You can also just watch. So we're going to take the hands forward of the shoulders so that when we come forward into a kneeling kind of plank, as long as your wrists are okay with this, your body's in a straight line from knees to shoulders, and there's a straight line down from shoulders to wrists. Right, so if the hands are too far back, it's going to put strain on your wrists. If it's too far forward, it's going to feel not so comfortable. It's going to be a little extra effort. So right underneath the shoulders as much as possible. And then from there, you'll bend your arms, let your thighs come down, your hips, your belly, your chest, your forehead. And then once you get there, you can take the weight off your wrists by bringing your arms forward. So your elbows are on the ground, and your hands are on the ground on either side of your face, more or less. And then if it feels, first of all, if your head is off your mat, if you've got a mat and your head is off it, you can just wiggle back, get comfortable, and then bring your forehead down. So in fact, actually, let's just be comfortable with your head. So you can rest your head on your hands, you can have your forehead down or turn your head to one side, whatever is better for you. So we'll focus for a moment on the breathing. So here, invite your breath to maybe be just slightly deeper than it might be naturally, so you can really feel the breath. You might feel some movement in your belly or lower back. Just tune into what you notice naturally. Okay, and then we're going to start to do a little bit of movement on the exhalation. So now as you exhale, I invite you to gently engage your buttocks, engage your thighs, and then press down with your hips and your thighs, gently but firmly into the ground. And then just relax as you inhale. Let those muscles relax. And then exhale, gently squeeze and press down. If your feet tend to cramp, you can tuck your toes under or put a blanket or a pillow under your ankles. So inhale, relax. Exhale, gently engage. It's very gentle, and press down. Inhale, relax. Exhale, engage and press down. So it's actually subtly doing that same movement with your spine. It's lengthening the lower back as you exhale and press down, bringing just a tiny bit more extension or back bend as you inhale and relax. So don't worry if you don't feel this. It's so subtle, and it can take years of tuning in to really get that kind of feeling in your body. So if you're thinking, what in the heck is she talking about? Don't worry about it. Right? You can still do this pose safely without feeling this movement. So wherever you're at, you can bring the arms back down to your side, so elbows tucked in. If anytime your lower back feels uncomfortable with this, just get up and move around on all fours. Maybe go to child's pose, rest for a moment. Head down, forehead down, elbows tucked in, hands on the ground, elbows on the ground. So we're going to exhale, press down with the hips and thighs, gently engaging, and then inhale, lift your chest and head just maybe an inch or two, a couple of inches off the floor, and then exhale, lower. Keep that engagement now through the hips, thighs, legs, pressing down. Inhale, upper body lifts. Exhale, lowers down. So this is great for strengthening the whole back of the body. We tend to be weak in this area, so these are good poses to do, but that means they often can be challenging poses to do. So if it feels like too much, allow yourself to not do as many. As I might suggest, stop anytime, take a break, be kind to yourself. All right. So next time you come down, I'm going to invite you to, again, let your hands be wherever they're comfortable. You can turn your head to one side. Maybe bend your knees now, so they're about 90 degrees bent. And take your lower legs side to side. So we're just bringing a little bit of a gentle twist to the lower back. Nothing extreme here. We're not trying to get the feet to the ground at all. Just saying, hey, lower back. Have a little different movement here. And if your lower back still wants more, always you can come back to all fours, do a little movement there. So we'll come back into this position, elbows to the sides, hands on either side of your face, forehead down, take a breath in. Exhale, gently press down, engaging the thighs, engaging the buttocks. Inhale, lift your chest and head. Exhale, lower. It doesn't have to be a lot, especially if you don't feel so strong here. Just lift an inch and lower, back down. And if you're feeling extra strong here and you want to really engage, you can stay in the pose. Keep looking down. If you're staying, either way, you want to be looking down. And if you're staying, you can think about taking your arms and pressing them slightly down and pulling back toward your heels with your elbows, or toward your feet with your elbows, and letting the chest come forward. So you'll really feel your body engage here when you press down and pull back. If you've already come out of this pose, great. Listen to your body. Come on down when you're ready. You can walk the hands back, come back to all fours. And before going to child's pose, which we'll do in a moment, let's do a little movement here. Just let your body wiggle and move and maybe slither like a snake or circle the hips, just intuitively letting the body move in whatever way would feel good after that little back bend sequence. If you want to go back to the cat-cow, it's that inhale arch, exhale rounding. You can do that or any other movement. And then when you feel like you've really moved out that any tension, you can then come back to either child's pose, so either coming to child's pose with the knees together, head rest on the ground, or your hands or your fists, or knees can be apart in frog pose, or some people it's a little higher up, knees are on the ground, but the hips are in the air, elbows are on the ground. So find a position that feels comfortable for you, and if you can't be comfortable in stillness, just keep your body moving for a moment. Tuning in, breathing. Right. And then let's come back up to all fours. So we're going to move into a little sequence that includes downward dog now. And we worked on downward dog last week. I want to just caution you if your wrists are feeling like they've had a lot of pressure on them, only go into downward dog briefly or skip it altogether and just go to child's pose. So from all fours, taking a breath in, tuck your toes under, exhale, keep your knees bent, press into your hands, lift your hips. And then you can come right back down to all fours and shift your weight back, taking the weight off your wrist for a moment, head coming toward the mat. And then again, when you're ready, coming to all fours, maybe lifting into downward dog if that feels right for you. And this time you might stay for a breath or two. So you've done one and you've kind of tuned into how your body feels. Maybe 2 or 3 breaths and then releasing down. And maybe pausing for a moment in child's pose. Each time you take the weight off your wrists, you might want to do a little movement, whether you're in child's pose or wherever you are. Just doing a little movement. Okay. And then we're going to make our way to standing. So last week we looked at that tricky move of stepping from downward dog forward. We used blocks for those of you who had them, if you needed them. And for some of you, you modified in some way or another. So I invite you to come back to that movement if you want to explore that. Bring a sense of playfulness with you. So we'll lift into downward dog. Right, you want to be up on your toes. Give yourself the maximum amount of space. You can lift one leg. You want to exhale and push off your back foot. See how far forward you can get. If you need to lower your back knee to help get that leg forward, that's a wonderful little cheat you can do there. And then you can step forward somehow with the back leg. Try to let your head release here for a moment. And then elbows up onto your thighs for a moment. So come up slowly. And then from here, from elbows on thighs, with a long spine, lifting up, taking the arms up over your head. And then exhale to release down. So we made it to standing. If you're still with me, thank you. Good for you. I don't know about you. I find cobra pose is kind of challenging, right? Most of us tend to slump. And so it's asking these muscles that are kind of weak and underused to wake up. And so sometimes I feel a bit of resistance. So if that's the case for you, know that you're not alone in that. So let's come into mountain pose, but not being a rigid mountain, being a strong, stable, relaxed mountain. So feel your body kind of being connected and drawn down into the earth. You might even imagine the base of a mountain spreading out around you. And feeling that lift through the crown, like the peak of your mountain, but feeling the base, the strength of the base, and feeling that lift through the peak. You can bend and straighten the knees now a few times, release any tension, making sure we're not rigid in our standing. And then add a shoulder rotation, so you'll bend and roll the shoulders. It really doesn't matter how this comes out. The point isn't a particular way of doing this, but to really feel your shoulders and legs starting to move a bit here. You can take the feet apart and rotate the shoulders one at a time. And again, take a moment to move with a little bit of free form. You can let the arms go. Just finding your own rhythm here. And then give it a shake. Shake it out. Shake it any way that feels good. we can really actually literally shake tension out of our bodies. Right? When people say shake it off, we can actually do that. We can kind of reset our nervous systems by having a good shake, right? When you've had a fright, we often shake, and that's our nervous system is shaking off the stress, literally. Right? Feet apart a little bit, hands to the hips. Try some nice, slow, mindful circles with your hips now. Make sure you go both directions and try to keep your attention on what's happening right now. Whatever you discover, making space to allow that to just be. So if there's pain in your hips, can you just allow that pain to be without thinking, oh, I wish I could get rid of this, right? That resistance creates tension. And self-love, self-acceptance doesn't mean that we don't work on the areas that may be painful or uncomfortable, but that we don't cast them out, right? We love them just the same. So let's come back to this wider, this position, and take the legs a little wider. So upright, but legs apart. It could be shoulder distance apart. Mine are a little wider. If yours are a little wider, that's fine too, or narrower, doesn't matter. So soft knees, taking the arms up to the sides, breathing in. And as you exhale, reach across for the opposite thigh as the other arm comes around behind your back. And then come up to the center, and then the other way. So for those of you who want a little bit more here, you can see if you can comfortably reach a little further down the leg, but there's no goal to reach anywhere in particular. The point is the twist. The amount of forward bend is just going to add a little bit of bonus hamstring stretch. Right? So your hamstrings might feel a stretch with your hand on your thigh. Your hamstrings might require you to bring your hand to your ankle or the floor to get the same stretch. If you're coordinating breath, inhale up, exhale, twist. If you like, you can stay, again, not required. It feels good, pressing gently against the leg, turning to look behind you, lifting that shoulder. And only stay if it feels good for you, and then when you're ready, switch sides. Okay, and coming back to the center. Great, let's bring the arms down. We'll step the feet together, and again, just give it a little shake. Let go. And then again, we'll take the feet a little wider, just either to where you were or wherever's comfortable, and we'll come into a forward bend now. So you can lift the arms up and come forward, bending the knees. The hands or elbows can come to the thighs, or you can reach toward the floor. Try to let your head release. And we'll come up with an inhale. So we'll move dynamically here, lifting with an inhale, forward with an exhale. As always, coordinating the breath is a suggestion, not a requirement. Just as long as you're breathing, it's all good. If it feels good to you to stay, again, you can stay. If it feels better to keep moving, keep moving. If you've had enough forward bending, you can just come back to stand in your mountain pose. So again, when you're staying, you could have your elbows on your thighs. You could let the arms come down, maybe clasp your elbows if that feels good for you, or just let the arms dangle. Sometimes I really appreciate the support of having my elbows on my thighs, and it also gives me a little bit of traction for my spine. Right, when you're ready, come all the way up. You can reach up overhead, exhale, and release. Bring the feet together. Let's come back to that imaginary mountain. Let your heels sink down, and as they do, you might feel your thighs engage a little bit. Maybe the lower abdominal area engages. There's a gentle engagement through the body. Just hold yourself here. It's not a clenching at all, just a kind of strength. Feeling the strength of your legs like the strength of the mountain, and that lifting the peak of the mountain, the crown of your head. Right. So think all of this great mountain energy, the strength, the stability, and then find a little more ease and softness in that stability. So where can you let go of tension and still hold the integrity of this mountain pose? Where can you soften? Where can you let go? And this is just such a beautiful balance to always find in our lives between soft and strong. Opening our hearts to love all of ourselves. The soft and squishy bits, the strong and steady bits, the forgotten or cast away bits. Great, big breath in. Exhale. You can even open your mouth. Do that maybe 2 or 3 times. Good. Another little shake, release, whatever feels good. And then we're going to make our way back down onto the ground. So again, take your time. Come right back onto our backs again. And taking the arms out to the sides, away from you on the ground, giving space for your breath. Your knees can be bent, or if it's more comfortable, straight legs is okay too. So I invite you to come back to these concepts we've been working with, feeling the body, feeling sensation in the body. So really feeling where your body makes contact with the ground. Noticing temperature and texture. Noticing any sensations or lack of sensations in your body. So if you notice an area where you don't have any feeling, notice that. If there's tension, notice that. And then tuning into the breath, so feeling the expansiveness of the inhale that can hold all of who we are, the good, the bad, the ugly. Creating space for all of who we are. And the exhale, we can let go. We can let go of these healthy, unhealthy patterns, of thoughts in our minds that tell us we're not good enough. We can drop those and let them go. And ironically, even in all of this, we love those voices that tell us we're not good enough, and then we let them go. The inhale makes space. The exhale, we release what we no longer need, what no longer serves us. The inhale gives us space to love and to invite in and to make space for all that is. Exhale, we let go. We don't need those old stories that don't serve us. And then as we move into the twist, you might imagine if this is a useful kind of image for you. If not, just completely ignore it, let it go. But if it's a useful image, you can imagine as you exhale, like you're wringing out whatever tension or old stories, conditioning that no longer serves you. As you inhale, making space, bringing the knees to center. Exhale, like you're wringing out, Getting the dirty water out of the sponge. Inhale, making space for everything. Exhale, bringing out, letting go, releasing. Continue a few more at your own pace. If you're a yes to staying in the twist, you can stay for a few breaths. If your body says no to staying, just keep moving side to side. Right? If it feels uncomfortable, if you have to hold tension to stay in the twist, then just keep moving or come back to the center. Leave the twist altogether. And if you're holding, you can hold on either side. If you're still moving, keep moving. And if you've had enough of the twist, and whenever that point comes, you'll come back to the center. You can bring your knees up in towards your chest, bringing one hand to each knee. You can let the knees move forward and back to massage. So that forward and back line of your back along the length of your back. And you can also hold the knees steady and rock side to side. And if you bring the knees closer or further away, it's going to change a little bit where you feel that movement. So you can play around with side to side, knees slowly coming in, noticing how that little massage moves up your back. And then you can move the knees out. And you might find a sweet spot that just feels really good. And you can stay there and rock a little side to side or make some little circles. And really playing around, discovering what feels good right now for you. And eventually you can release your feet to the ground. And stretching one leg out, stretch the same arm overhead if that's okay for your shoulder. Out to the side is absolutely fine as well. So you really don't want to put any strain on your shoulder. And reaching out, imagine extending from your fingers to your toes. Sending breath into that long side of your body. Waking it up with energy. Filling it with self-love. You can imagine that side as a color if you like. As you breathe in, you're breathing color into your arm, leg, and that side of your torso. And then bringing your knee in toward your chest, you can give it a little hug in and release. And then other side, so taking that arm and leg, stretching them out in whatever way is comfortable. And then simply taking your attention to that side of your body, the arm, the leg, the torso, breathing into that side and noticing what's present. You could imagine breathing a color into that side. It might be the same color or it might be a different color. And then bringing that knee in towards your chest, give it a little squeeze. And then bringing that foot to the floor. We'll take both arms to the sides. It could be lower or higher, depending what you've got space for and what's comfortable for you. And to integrate, to bring both sides of the body, mind back into alignment and connection, we're going to take a breath in. And as you exhale, lift one knee, bring the opposite hand to that knee and give it a little squeeze in. Inhale, release. Exhale, other side. So we're doing opposite or diagonal pairs. Right hand to left knee, left hand to right knee. Right, and then next time you can bring both knees in, both hands to your knees. And then you can also try bringing your hands over your legs if they'll reach, or behind your thighs. And again, any movement that would feel good. So just take another minute or two, any movement that you like. You don't have to have knees to chest. You can stretch and shake out your limbs if that feels good, or you can reach out on the ground if that feels good. So really take a moment to listen to your body, listen to your intuition, what would feel good before coming into our relaxation to end the class in Shavasana. So take your time, let whatever movement wants to happen, happen. And then gradually, as you feel ready, you can start to find your way to stillness. So that stillness might be lying, it could be sitting if you prefer. If you're lying, legs can be bent or straight, whatever is more comfortable. Hands can rest on the body or on the ground again, whatever feels good to you. And let's come back again to feeling the body on the ground, to tuning into what we can notice in terms of sensation. Again, not dwelling on what's uncomfortable or painful, but not casting it out either, acknowledging it. And then allowing your attention to move somewhere that feels neutral or good. Just a little bit of awareness of where your body is in space and how it's feeling right now. And then we're going to tune into the exhalation, the energy that allows us to let go and sink down. So your inhale will happen, of course, has to happen with each exhalation, but let your attention and focus be on the exhalation. A feeling of softening and letting go. Each exhale, find a little more release where it's available to you. The jaw, the muscles of your face, the neck, the shoulders. Feel your arms release and let go. Let your hands soften and release. As you exhale, feel your rib cage settle. Your belly softens, the lower back releases. The weight of your hips sink down into the earth, letting go of any holding or engagement or tension in the buttocks, in the thighs. Dropping down through your knees, softening through your calves, shins, ankles, feet. Exhale, let go even more. Where are you subtly holding tension? Can you release a little more? The chant today is a continuation of the last few weeks, adding on to it to add the element of the mind. So the body, the breath, and the mind. And when we bring our focus, when we really bring our attention to the present moment, to these aspects of ourselves, we uncover a shining inner light. And this inner light, you could say, is self-love. Like when we're not worried about the past or the future, comparing ourselves to others, or creating stories about who we think we should be, right? We uncover this beautiful jewel of self-love. And don't worry if you don't feel like you're there yet or anywhere close. It's a lifelong journey. Annamaya me shuddhantam jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuya sakka swaha. Om Pranamaya me shuddhantam jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuya sakka swaha. Om Manomaya me shuddhantam jyotiraham viraja vipapma bhuya sakka swaha. So if you're ready to move out of Shavasana, and it's always an option to stay when you're there at home. If you want to integrate and be in Shavasana a little longer, you can mute me or turn off the recording if it's later. And otherwise, if you are ready to re-inhabit your life, you can start to breathe a little more deeply. Feeling that expansiveness, that idea that when we expand and we can own our entirety of ourselves, that we can come into that place of self-love where our inner light shines. So opening and expanding that space, even if we can just let a little bit in at a time, it's all great. And then if you're ready, you can wiggle your fingers and toes, do whatever movement feels good to your body. And if you're ready to come upright, you can roll onto your side whenever you're ready. Slowly take your time to return to seated. And you might tune in. So we started the class. If you've come back to seated, You might tune into your body here, your breath, your state of mind, those areas that we tuned into earlier. And notice, has anything shifted? How do you feel now? And then bringing your palms together at your heart. Taking a moment to thank yourself for showing up, which is it's an act of self-love in itself to be here, to take this time for you. So take the time to thank yourself. Right? When we're grateful to someone, they want to do those things more. When we're grateful to ourselves, we're more likely to want to continue doing those things that serve us well. Namaste. So this is a theme that you can continue to integrate really for the rest of your life. I'm not sure if any of us ever gets it perfectly. But I encourage you to take the theme off your mat and into your life as always.